nerds, and welcome. We are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis. I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-hosts, Eric, Ryan, and Clark. This week's episode, we will be going on an actual quest. I'm not mentioning it, Eric. Put it away.
That's what
This
she
week,
said.
we will be embarking on an actual quest as we do our first product review of a tabletop RPG. But first, the Hey How Are Yous, we're going to keep it short because we have a lot to go through this week. Eric, how you been?
Not too bad. It's been a busy week. Got to go back to the States, deal with the VA. A lot of fun.
I always love the VA, right?
Actually, they've been really cool with everything.
Surprisingly, I've had good experiences the last couple of times I've gone to the VA, so I guess I should...
I think they're understanding because I drive 7.5 hours for my appointments, so they're pretty cool about it. Yeah. Other than that, no, that's pretty much it with me.
Ryan?
I've had a pretty full couple of weeks. Sorry for missing the last session, obviously. So I'm excited to be back. Life kind of sucks as far as real life goes, so.
You and Clark both had, like, the epizooty.
Indeed.
Which is my favorite term for just a general, like, illness.
Yeah.
Once a quarter, my husband always tries to test my immune system, and sometimes he gets it.
Sounds like he got you this last round.
He did.
Giggity.
But yeah, I'm really excited about tonight's episode. And it's been tying into the way my geek research is how I'm going to put playing games from now on. My geek research recently has been all science fiction outer space stuff. We had 2 major updates. The Omega update on No Man's Sky has been fantastic for anybody looking to play that expedition. The new features are amazing. And of course, the Guardian games are back on Destiny 2, and so I've been pushing the Guardian games.
I need to get back
on your hoverboard.
So to grind.
I have the white one. I haven't been able to get the good one yet. So, but yeah, that's been my geek out. Guardian games on Destiny, space stuff on No Man's Sky.
I will say I am now enjoying the class versus class feature they have on Destiny. So it's just like Titan, Melee, Monkey Brain versus everyone else. So I'm here for it.
Brief pause. Eric, did you set us back up on YouTube to go live?
I did, but I'm having technical difficulties. It's probably because you didn't want to mention Pikachu, so now we're jinxed.
Jinx is a
I'm
different
just
Pokemon.
throwing that out there.
Jinx is a different game.
It's a different
Jinx
Pokemon.
It's also in a different game entirely with League of Legends, which is where my brain went.
Our new executive producer's insulted, so due to the... But I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know why it would mess up.
Yeah, I don't know why suddenly it's...
It looks like it's closed to the public.
Yeah, that's what it's saying on mine.
Yeah, no, it's saying that on mine too, and I can't figure out why. So, Well, anyways, we'll keep going. I mean, we might have issues with live, but obviously we're here for it. We'll put the video up when we're done. Lots of fun.
Gonna have to watch it retroactively for those people that like to tune in live. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. We'll keep working on it. Maybe we can get up on Facebook or something.
It shows us live on the thing, but for whatever reason, just not wanting to cooperate.
Yeah, and I'm not overly YouTube savvy, so this is like the first real glitch I've run into. So it's very interesting, to say the least.
Gotcha. Well, we'll let you keep working on that. Clark, what about you?
During my illness, I've mostly been playing the new Final Fantasy Rebirth. So that's, I think it's like 66 hours of playthrough time, and I'm going to say 7 or 8 hours into it. It's really great CG cinematics. It's the lore and the story is starting to get Kingdom Hearty to me, where I'm just like, I don't remember who this person is and why they're attached to this person, but I will go anywhere for Sephiroth. So, that's been about my week. How about you, Travis?
It was bonus week, so
yay!
All the goodwill towards my company has fully returned.
That's good.
Hell yeah.
They've got about 10 months of me really being top tier. I love this company until all of that is just going to be completely depleted, and then I limp my way to the next bonus, and then it just full instantly. So lots of goodwill for me towards my company and coworkers at the moment, which is paid off because they're already taking advantage of that goodwill with like last minute quote requests. So
Naturally.
and with that, Ryan, go ahead and take the lead. Let's get started.
All right. Well, I guess to follow the script here, all y'all know me. I'm Ryan. I am crossing the nerdverse, kind of unplugged creative specialist here. My job is to handle things like tabletop RPGs, trading cards, board games, and anything else that doesn't require a battery. And we do indeed have a product review for you. And normally I know this kind of thing would fall into like a mid-episode plug or maybe something up on the TikTok, but this one's special. I like this one a lot. I've personally invested and purchased part of this product, and I think everybody needs to know more about it enough to actually dedicate an episode to it. So, as part of March Madness's RPG lineup, I want to talk to you guys tonight about Substratum Protocol, a new tabletop RPG by Pandion Games. So Substratum, all the good credits first. It was designed and written by Andrew Boyd, which did a fantastic job, and illustrated by Galen Pajot. I'm going to butcher that pronunciation, but
You're on your own with names.
yeah.
Sorry we butchered your last name, buddy.
I don't even know the scientist things in this game, so.
But yeah, this particular game, guys, Substratum Protocol, is a fantastic venture, not into post-apocalyptic like you would see in something like Fallout or similar fare, but instead it's an apocalyptic game. The world is currently ending, and you play a group of scientists tasked with trying to fix that, which I think is super cool. It is licensed under the Orc license, which is available from azurelaw.com/orc license. And it's beautiful. I do want to open up with this little segment to kind of get you a vibe on what we're covering. It says about the chief of operations at the Fracture Observatory. Now, the Fracture Observatory is a rapidly constructed scientific research center that is situated over a particular part of a massive break that split the Earth in half. And that's the premise of the game. The Earth has cracked in half, and we're trying to figure out why and if there's anything we can do to fix it before it is entirely destroyed. So, Chief Officer Operations at the Fracture Observatory. Dr. Fernando Marquis de Alameda is a fictional character taking on the role of Chief of Operations, responsible for both the Fracture Observatory and the Substratum Expedition teams. This character is named after the very real geologist by the same name, Marquis de Alameda. 1916 to 2013, was widely regarded as Brazil's foremost geologist. He published 176 scientific papers on geosciences during a career marked by 9 major awards and honors. One of the founders of the Brazilian Society of Geology, he also became the first chief editor of the Journal of Geology. In this fictional world, we thought an esteemed geologist would oversee the operations of the Fracture Observatory and the Substratum Protocol, and so was named after Marquis de Alameda, which I think is a really cool touch. So, I want to get into how the game works, discuss some mechanics with you guys, and then, of course, we'll create characters and get ready to go on an actual quest. So, the game itself is unique. It's interesting because it was designed in such a way where, for those of you that are DMs, it uses little to no prep time. You can pick it up and just start playing. And more interestingly, it was actually designed where you could run it, you could play this game entirely by yourself, entirely solo, where the game will actually DM itself to a certain degree. Now, it uses several key factors to achieve those goals, not the least of which is the fact that the player investment in the story, the player investment in the world building is a huge part about that. And several key features that would normally be very crunchy mechanics about the game are left to the player's interpretation. And this includes everything from the way that you skin stuff. And so in the base game,
Sorry, the cat's tail just gently ticking
yeah.
underneath Clark's chin is slaying me because it's like every few seconds it's just like,
He's here for his nightly butt pats, okay?
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's funny to see just a cat tail come up and brush against your chin and then go back down.
It's even more fun when he walks across and takes my glasses with him.
There you go. So one part about this that is kind of open to interpretation, the skin, is actually the one that's the most fleshed out. Within the base game, each of the scientists, the roles you'll be playing as the players, they get what's called I keep calling it a desperate exosuit, a DSPRT Mark I exosuit. And so it's part of your gear, and it has a whole host of abilities, very Iron Man, but via retrofuturism 1950s Iron Man, right? But this can be retailored to fit the narrative. And so, yes, you could have your exosuit. You could also have it be individual small vehicles. You can have it be more mech style. You can have it be all kinds of different stuff, as long as each player falls within the category of having these capabilities. Outside of that, the core mechanics of the game involve both a standard polyhedral set of dice, your standard D&D dice, and a deck of playing cards, standard deck of playing cards. And how you determine DC's difficulty and interaction are using both of them. Now, when we get into character creation, we'll get about like how certain skills work and how you get dice ratings. But for every skill in the game, you have a dice rating, which ranges from D4 to D12. And nearly every check in the game involves rolling two skills together in a way narrated by the player to make sense. So, for example, there's a break skill. There's also a crafting skill. And so, let's just say Travis, for example, wants to try to break down a door or break down a section of whatever you found
I feel like
deep
I'm being
underground.
typecast.
Well, I mean, anybody that's
Very true.
Anybody that's tuned into our Too Legit to Crit kind of crossover, we know what you're good at. But you would roll, say, crafting and break together to know not just if you can break the door, but where to hit it to break it the easiest. To determine your DC, you actually use your deck of cards. And so you'll flip over two cards from your deck of cards, each of them having a number value ranging from 1 to 13, with the king being a 13 and an ace being 1. And that determines your DC. So you'll roll your dice. If you roll higher than both of the cards, then you get a fantastic success. It's a good result. Everything works out in your favor. If you beat one card and not the other, you get an okay result, which means you're successful, but there's a complication that comes up. And if you don't defeat either card, then it's a bad result. Nothing worked right, and you and the rest of the team are set back. The interesting part comes with after those core mechanics, because those cards also become your XP and your suit's kind of power stat. And so any card that you defeat with your dice roll, you pick it up and you add it to your hand, and you get a hand of playing cards. If you get 8 of them, you level up, but you can also use them to power functions in your suit and to use your equipment to adjust the gameplay. Yes, Clark.
So it doesn't matter what the value of my cards are, I just need 8?
For the level up, yeah, you just need 8. But
Okay.
for certain aspects of the game, whether the suits match will be important, the value of the cards will be important, all that good stuff. And so we'll cover those a little bit more in depth when we start crunching on the mechanics and stuff. But I thought it was really cool how they have a dice game, standard RPG, very familiar. Everybody likes rolling dice. It involves cards with a standard deck of playing cards. And within the game, your experience points with how you level up are also your kind of power stat, your energy stat that you use to power everything else. And so it becomes very resource management, right? Where it's, I could set up a sensor array using these cards, or I could radio mission control and get some clues, hints, or guidance. But all of that uses my XP as a power stat. And so do you continue to save them up or not? And that comes to the second more interesting mechanic of this game. And that's the fact that every time you use anything in this game, whether it's a skill or a suit, piece of tech, or an item that you've brought with you, it begins to degrade by either losing power or accumulating stress. So, for example, if Clark has a particular skill, let's say Sway, and uses that on some eldritch entity within the depths and convinces this otherworldly intelligence of the good intentions of the party, fantastic, you get some benefits from that. But your, let's say, D10 die in that stat after you used it degrades down to a D8. Using it again degrades it to a D6, down to a D4. Now, sorry.
Now, is that anytime you use a skill, it goes down a die?
Anytime you use a skill, it goes down a die. This also goes for your equipment. Your equipment will have a D12, I think. Maybe it's a D10 base stat. Every time you use that piece of equipment, it degrades down to D8, down to D6. But throughout the game,
is there a way to reverse the degradation? Okay, there we go.
There is indeed. You can reset your skills and equipment by taking one of several different game actions. The most common is what the game refers to as a deep breath. Now, this is a one-turn thing where you recenter yourself, you reboot your systems, and you get everything back to where it goes. You can even do this in the middle of like a combat scene. But using a deep breath to reset your skills adds additional complication to whatever you're trying to do. And so you can stay topped off and healed all the time, but it makes the game significantly harder. Now, obviously through the game, for those of you that are familiar with tabletop RPGs that are listening in, we are going to be using some shorthand, and I've already used a lot of it without thinking. Things like D4, D6, D10. This refers to the number of sides on a polyhedral die. And of course, when we talk about cards, we'll use things like action, deck, and discard, and that kind of stuff. And so anybody with curiosity on the vernacular or how to speak geek, yeah, there we go. We got Clark and Eric both holding up some of their dice. Feel free to message us. Hit us up on Facebook, comment section of YouTube, and we would be happy to walk you through what some of these things mean. Now, as far as acknowledgments go, I do want to bring up some stuff before we get too deep into this. There were several games, movies, and other projects that influenced the creators of Substratum Protocol. This includes Breathless and Firelights by Fari RPGs, which basically were the inspiration for the mechanics behind it. Brindlewood Bay by Jason Cordova for things like clue tables and mysteries without predefined answers. And Grandmothership by Armada Haller for the way clues pierce together. And for you video game guys, the game was meant to evoke feelings of desperation and isolation like you would find in games like In Other Waters by Jump Over the Age, Subnautica by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, A New Beginning by Daedalic Entertainment, and movies like Deep Impact or Armageddon.
I was getting, honestly, from your breakdown, I was getting a real Dead Space vibe.
Yeah, it feels very Dead Spacey to me when I read through the book. And that I think is exactly what they were trying to cover. Now, obviously, for the game, guys, it is an unplugged one, so all you need is a set of dice, a deck of playing cards without jokers, the book, and pencils and your printed character sheets.
I went super fancy and got a PDFF, so.
Nice. So I'm going to go over the quick reference here. The skill checks are basically always two things combined, right? There'll be one that's always quite obvious and one that's narrative for you as the player. And so, for example, if you're confronting something, right? This is your confront is kind of your fightiness. Like I'm gonna do combat. That's obviously the break skill, and then a skill of your choice that will add to it that you have to justify. And so if you want to add in like evade because of something, you continue to write your character's backstory as we play the game. I'm going to roll break and evade because I'm a very dodgy fighter that was trained in whatever. Now, I've talked about the reducing skill dice and how everything kind of slowly ticks down, including your items. Your item can be used in replacement of another skill. And so using something like a piece of technical equipment, a crowbar, even a laser gun might replace a different skill in whatever action you're trying to take. Clark, you talked about stress earlier. Stress is interesting in this game because it's your hit points, effectively. It's how much damage you can take. This starts at 8 for everybody. It also represents the technical integrity of your exosuit / vehicle. Because as you get closer to the bottom of the fracture, things get weirder and weirder, and technology stops functioning like it should. And so the more stress you have, the more injured you become, the more difficult things become. However, a large part of this game is what they refer to as the portal. Now, throughout the entire thing, you find reference to the portal, right? This is ultimately a trans-dimensional pocket, breach, tear, gateway, something that's opened up near our planet's core, and it's the win condition for the RPG. Yes, there is a definite win condition. As you were exploring, you were trying to find clues to the nature and origin of the portal so that you can get there and shut it down and save the world. The kicker is, working with the portal becomes easier the more stressed out you are. It's almost like madness in Call of Cthulhu. The crazier you go, the easier magic gets. Very similar in this game. So there's a whole host of exosuit abilities and portal influence that we can go over here in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the last hypothesis.
All right, give me two. We're gonna have to do a technical thing. We're gonna try this. It's gonna be crazy.
All right,
it's gonna be a quick thing we're gonna do. So, yeah, I think it'll work. I don't.
We'll fix it in post.
We're gonna fix it in post.
Yeah, I'm really good at that. All right, so we're gonna give this a go. Everyone, be quiet
Let's do
for like 5 seconds. And we're back.
And
I'm
back.
hoping.
Gotta love technical stuff. So, right where we left off, the last hypothesis. Now, ultimately, this falls on you guys as the players. The last hypothesis is how you instigate the end game, right? We think we understand enough to actually win. Let's do this.
It's like Clue, where we all go and I guess. Okay.
Everybody runs the gamble when we're just...
Exactly right.
Let's just start the game by making wild hypotheses.
Right. So what's funny about that is the way the system works is it would legitimately be impossible to do it right out of the gate.
Oh.
But the minute you find one clue or go a little crazy, it then becomes possible. Not likely, but possible.
Now, are there any ways to get bonuses by starting a little crazy?
So no, there's no way to start a little bit crazy.
So there's no like flaw feat or anything like that?
Yeah, there's no flaw system where you can go in already a little stressed out. Now, the good news is acquiring stress is easy enough. And so you can actually instigate stress on yourself by doing things like overclocking, which allows you to take a bad skill that you have. You can suffer 2 stress and use the D12.
Does everyone have to be the same level of stressed, or do we just let one of our party members go insane while the rest of us just collect clues?
That's entirely up to you.
I volunteer
Goodbye,
as tribute.
Eric. So I've totally had a loop. I've been trying to fix this crazy stuff we got going. It's still locked. I don't know why.
You're the hero of the story. That's what I said.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You're going to save the world.
Your sacrifice means a
You're
lot to us.
Batman.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely figured I'd be the sacrifice. It's okay.
All right, so I'm going to cover
Canada
one more
dies
thing
for your
here.
sins. I get it.
Thank you.
And then we'll go back into more open discussion, so it's not just me sitting here lecturing about the game. But the Substratum Protocol. All right, so the Substratum Protocol was created in the event that an emergency subterranean expedition was ever needed, coupled with the list of scientists, equipment, and procedures to ensure its success regardless of the nature of the emergency. When the interdimensional portal rift appeared at the Earth's core, the Substratum Protocol was initiated and scientists were rushed at all costs to the hastily built Fracture Observatory. You are the best and brightest scientists we have left to stem off the apocalypse. You are the Substratum Expedition Team.
Press X to doubt.
Press X to doubt. You'll
I'm
begin
gonna
the game.
say it seems like this was an awfully specific thing set up for an awfully specific disaster that happened to awfully specifically take place shortly after.
So what's funny about that is when you pick up the core rulebook, it is riddled with like handwritten notes and annotations with the scientists from the team saying exactly that kind of thing. It's
Feels
glorious. It's
sus.
very meta. So the objectives of the Substratum Expedition Team are to descend into the fracture, learn about the portal, and survive to implement a solution. And this is where your Session Zero stuff, for anybody that's thinking about running this game in the future, be aware there are some key features about the game that you need to discuss with your party, and you got to talk Session Zero with everybody so that everybody's having fun with the game. It is interpretive, and the more invested your players are, the better it's going to be. Whether that's a super serious Call of Cthulhu, we want to get scared and fight for the last minute, all the way up to a very silly kind of slapstick game with the Wild Wasteland Fallout kind of stuff, with
Space
talking bubbles and Space Jam and yeah, that kind of stuff. Everything is super weird and nothing's off the table, which I think is a glorious part about this game. But under its rules as written, there are 5 distinct warnings for anybody that's looking to play the game. It does involve claustrophobia and confined spaces. It does involve thalassophobia and fear of deep water and deep spaces, dark spaces. And of course, despair, depression, and futility, as your scientists come face to face with the concept that they may not have been sent down here for the reasons they anticipated.
Why does it sound like you're sending me to work?
I was like, life.
It's life. So yeah, obviously, guys, in a Session Zero, always cover what your players are comfortable with. See if there's anybody that really doesn't want to go underwater, or any of that jazz. And make sure everybody knows the vibe that you're going for, and don't surprise anybody if you're going to run a very body horror, Dead Space kind of story. Don't surprise anybody with that. Make sure that they know that's what they're getting into. Yes, Clark?
I know it's really hard to do in this setting, but will there be jump scares? I'm not. I am a flightless bird when it comes to the fight or flight. So
Oh,
I
we talked
might
about that before,
smack
actually,
a
yeah.
cat.
Okay, so I will avoid any kind of loud noises or sudden jump scares.
I mean, you can do it. I'm just going to be scared. And
So
you
yeah,
will hear me
always
scream on camera.
right. Always cover Session Zero with any players in any game that you're playing, listeners. I've already covered a large part of it with my team before we started recording the episode, so that everybody kind of knew what we were getting into. And I got a vibe on what kind of game they were wanting to play.
And he told
Nobody
us no.
asked me. I'm just
I
throwing that
I
out
didn't
there.
ask Eric.
He's like, that's a great vibe. We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
He heard all of our first passes at names and nixed it immediately.
I had the best one.
Shut
Just
it
saying.
all off right away.
Yeah, I had to get in front of that. All right, so given all of that right now, let's go ahead and have some open discussion. That's the basic mechanics, that's the basic way it works, and the basic setting. Now, there's a lot more to develop beyond that, obviously. But what are your first thoughts?
I'm excited to I feel like I like the idea of playing against myself with the cards. Like there's a benefit to me for drawing high, but also not a benefit. So, because that's initially what I thought. I was like, oh, I really just want a deck of low cards. How can I shuffle these better? But then you're like, oh, you get benefits for some higher cards later. And I was like, ooh, okay. I'm sad that my dice degrade, though, because I don't like when things get taken away from me.
The dice degradation is definitely an interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
You don't. I have yet to see that on anyone without taking, like, as far as degrades with use goes, as opposed to like
Yeah, like Nat 1 degradation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
not even Nat 1 degradation. There was another game that you and I have played that had dice degradation. I can't remember what it was.
I know that there was a
It had
mechanic
to
in
deal
the
with
Alien.
madness. Wasn't Alien. It was the one where Bones played a preacher.
Oh, I know
Ugly
exactly
was the
what you're
one-armed
talking about.
duelist.
Yeah.
Deadlands
that one had
Reloaded.
it was Deadlands. That one had a different kind of degradation system. It wasn't like
did.
this one.
It wasn't like this, but your dice would definitely like degrade based on how crazy you were. Actually, depending on the dice, because you could get to the point where you were so crazy you actually got benefits in some stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is definitely a wild mechanic that I don't think that. Well, no, that's not true, because Elena really leaned into the madness thing, because
she was playing a mad scientist, and so.
Yeah.
All right, so I think it's kind of cool. I really like the combination of dice degradation versus your healing capabilities, especially on things like being able to take the deep breath mechanic, right? So imagine playing D&D where you can fully heal your character as an in-game action, but it adds a new complication to the scene, right? It makes magical darkness fill the area. It brings in extra monsters. It reverses gravity or something like that. That's what this game's kind of setting it up. It's an unexpected, and that's where your jump scares, so to speak, would come from, Clark. Is like, okay,
as long as you don't like, boom,
yeah,
we're good.
I'm gonna slide into this cover and I'm gonna take a deep breath, and then everybody stares at the DM at mission control, the MC, and it's like, oh god, what's he gonna add now?
I do like the idea of gravity reversing.
Indeed. So, as far as the mission control side of things, the game itself is kind of pre-mapped and always is similar, but deviates wildly. So, the one thing that stood out to me as far as a core mechanic goes was turn-based actions and how they work. So, a standard campaign of Substratum Protocol lasts 150 days in-game. But sometimes the actions you take are hours or days long as your characters are setting up equipment or taking samples or studying something, which I thought was kind of cool. And so you're talking about you're starting at the surface.
Clacks.
Yep.
It's not me for once.
Sorry. Yeah, it's me this time. It's adding ambiance. Is that what it is? Is that what it's called? Is that the word? My word of the day, by the way.
Close
Thank
enough.
you, word of the day.
ASMR.
ASMR, yeah.
Frantic keyboard typing.
So you start off at the surface, and the portal is 5,734 kilometers away. And so you're going to be making your way as your scientists from the surface down through 10 different sub-levels to get to the portal. And along the way, you have to find as many clues to how the portal functions and what it's doing as you possibly can. And there is guidelines on how, like, what each level is, right? Let me see if I can find the map here. So you have level 1, which is a depth of 0 kilometers, which is the fracture opening. This is where every game kind of starts and jumps off. And the fracture opening not just covers the actual surface itself, but like 600 kilometers of just break in the Earth's crust where you're crawling through broken soil and rocks and looking at the strange things that were unearthed in there. And the guidelines that you have are supposed to be fracture opening, civilization ruins at level 2, so a lost civilization's ruins. Level 3 is liquefying crystals. Level 4 is superheated lakes. Level 5 is caustic pools and oceans. Level 6 is a gravity inversion zone. Level 7 is an alpha protocol grove, or an alpha particle grove. Level 8 is a barrier event horizon. Level 9 is the inner core, and then of course level 10 being the portal at the core of our planet. And moving between individual levels, you can do nearly at any time. You choose a group leader. They roll a dash plus skill, and so whatever skill you're going to be using to move. It's a 26-day action, and depending on how good they do, this can do everything from heal a couple stress from the entire party, all the way up to illicit stress, removal of gear, and even major malfunctions. So choosing a party leader is very important.
Ichi me. I roll ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this a low roll or a high roll game?
I'm better at non-D6 dice, okay?
Remember, I don't set your DCs as mission control. Your deck of cards does.
So how good is your blackjack? That's really what he's saying.
How good are you at card counting is really what it is. It's just gonna, you said shuffle these, right? Right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna...
So that's actually an interesting part of the game is if you've gathered up enough cards where your deck is getting thin, then you do kind of have a card count where you're like, okay, and it translates into the game where you're feeling confident, you're feeling good. You don't have that many high DCs, so to speak, left in the deck.
What are the odds we actually burn through a deck of 52 cards?
Very, very slim.
Okay.
Under a standard game, when we all don't live several thousand, kilometers away, there would, I believe, and it never states this directly in the rule book, but I believe the intention is that there is a deck of cards.
A shared deck? Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's at least two, because you have one that's the mission controls deck that's called the action deck, and then you have one for the table. And the interesting thing is, if you're doing that, if you do burn out a deck of cards, well, you do the standard thing, right? You take the discard pile, you shuffle it up, it becomes the new deck. If you get to the point where all the cards are collected and there's no deck and no discard, it's a hard reset on the party. Everybody gives up all their cards to form a new deck. And so don't let that happen. Don't hoard XP.
Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Now, as far as the way we're going to play, you can play with individual decks for everybody, which is obviously what we're going to be doing. And so if you get down to the bottom of your deck, shuffle your discard, make your new deck. If you get to the point where you are holding 50 plus cards in hand without leveling up or doing anything, I'm curious as to why.
We're going to judge you mercilessly.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm just gonna hoard all of my cards. They can be like, do you want to level up? No. Do you want to use any of your cards? No. I'm just gonna
Just gonna power level at the very end.
Yeah. All right,
So
we made it to the portal. I'm gaining 8 levels.
Right. Let me ask you guys this. I'm curious to something.
Man.
So, obviously for our playtest here, and again, thank you very much to Pandian Games for letting us review this particular product. I'm so in love with this game, so I appreciate it. But under normal circumstances, the game plays in the DSPRT Mark I exosuit, right? There's some beautiful artwork of it. I got to check with the guys that are publishing the game, make sure that we can share that artwork. I think we can. But very, very beautiful artwork about how the suit is set up and how it works. But there are whole sections talking about how you can adjust that to fit your table's kind of wants and needs. And so instead of it being an exosuit, an Iron Man suit, it could be something like a mech where you're actually sitting in a chair and piloting a tiny, like robotic conveyance, or it could be a vehicle, kind of like those old sci-fi big giant drill boats, drill cars that burrow through the surface and that kind of thing. There's all kinds of different aspects that you can take. Now, I personally think for our run, we should keep everything pretty close to the original because I'd like to review how they have it all set up. But this could be a fun game for us to play with a crossing the nerdverse theme because we have our kind of like sub lore for the channel, right? Where we're all effectively traversing the multiverse in search of cool nerd stuff and checking out different fandoms, it kind of translates to this if we wanted to take a lighter-hearted edge to it.
I'm not that creative. I'm not gonna lie. That would be someone else has to create that.
Don't worry, I can take care of that.
Yeah, right. I think Ryan would instantly volunteer for that.
Yeah, I'd volunteer so fast. My mute button would just break. Like, no, I want it. So, let's cover a little bit of stuff. How are we doing on time? We're not doing bad on time. Excellent.
You gotta add 20 minutes to that.
We're not doing great on time. Good to know. So I want to cover some basics with you guys before we get to character creation, and then we'll jump right into character stuff. So everybody will have their starting gear. Now, this ultimately is your suit. Your only starting gear outside of one additional tool is your suit, but it has several different good functions. And so let me go down the checklist here. We talked about skill checks. We talked about reducing dies. We talked about stress, deep breath action, overclocking. Beyond that, the game actually plays very similar to Blades in the Dark. And so, if y'all remember from our crossover with Too Legit, your gear, your narratives.
I know that Clark doesn't succeed on rolls.
Yeah, Clark can't roll d6s.
Clark can't roll d6s. The lurks are not lurking in that game.
Yeah, I love the fact that like the two people that roll the most in that game are the two people that roll the lowest consistently.
I'm gonna go get new dice this weekend. I want a whole set of mini d6s. Maybe that will help me if they're tiny.
If I can't read the number, they get to be whatever I want them to be.
Oh, I'm actually going to take the moment. I wanted to show this off to you guys. So I got this one as a gift from one of my players. This is a handcrafted 2-part epoxy resin die. One of my players has recently shown that she is a very talented dice smith. So shout out to AJ. Thank you very much. I'm very excited, and I plan on using most of these dice for the upcoming product review game. So,
can they make tiny ones?
For those of you concerned with my health, it's not beer, it's root beers. I'm getting trashed during the show.
I'm actually root beering it up myself.
Nice.
So storage and items, guys.
Vodka. No, I'm kidding.
Whenever you make a check in the game, it works kind of similar to Blades in the Dark, right? There's not a lot of instances where you have to chip away at hit points or versus AC, that kind of stuff. You'll set your own DCs using the playing cards. I say set, like it's not randomly determined. And then the outcome is narrated by you as the player, under most circumstances. And so it's very much a pass or fail kind of. I mean, it's gray because you have the with complication, but there's not a lot of working through HP. There is some, but not a lot of it. As far as items go, you can carry up to 3 items in your storage of your suit/vehicle. And each of these, I believe, are almost always D10s and will take the place of a certain skill. And your exosuit has the following abilities. So you have Repair and Heal. This is where you can discard 2 suits to remove 1 stress or to repair an item to its max die. And so if you have a drill and you've used it down to a D4, you can use your repair action, discard 2 cards, and it fully repairs it. And this is where we get to a different mechanic. So your 3D printer. Every suit has a 3D printer. It uses microfilament to create items on the go. Yes, Travis.
So when we get ready to start creating, I noticed that they've got a D20 starting items. Will we be rolling to randomly determine our item?
So no. During character creation, that's actually a set kind of thing where you choose it based on your character, or you can ask mission control to provide you with a solution, in which case you roll the D20 and get something random.
Hear me out. Chemist with a laser Gatling gun.
Absolutely. Hey, it's entirely your character. If it makes sense to you, go for it.
Split atoms.
Yeah. So your 3D printer works off a mechanic called laying down cards. Now, when you lay down a card, you're actually laying down versus me. And so you'll look at your hand, and Clark, for example, you were talking about holding on to highs or lows, right? This is where this comes into play.
Jenkins
Yes.
is always lurking.
I need that audio clipped so I can use it randomly.
Of just Clark saying meow.
It wasn't me, it was Ryan.
No,
Yeah,
I
it
was gonna say it was the
me.
cat. Oh, it was Ryan? Oh, I thought
Yeah,
it was
it
a
was me.
cat. Oops.
I can, yeah, they'll scream usually, but
That's
not on
actually
cue.
Ryan's nickname because he's curious.
Moving on.
You guys have all watched Futurama, right? Where the
Yeah.
professor goes,
Yeah.
that's why they call me the Cat Man. And then, like, 2 or 3 scenes later, Fry's like, save us, Cat Man!
So laying down cards. If you're looking to do a task like use your 3D printer that's in your suit, you can lay down a number of cards. Usually this is 1. For the 3D printer, it's up to 4. And you'll lay them down in a particular order. You're looking at your hand and you want to make sure you make a really good item with your 3D printer. So you lay down a couple of queens, a jack, and a 9. I will then flip over cards one at a time to contest each of them. For each one where you beat mine, you get a success. If you tie me or I beat you, doesn't count as a success. The more successes you get, the more complex item you get. This translates to its die ratio. So one success gives you a D4, then a D6, a D8, and a D10. Now, boosting. You can discard 2 suited cards to add 1 to any roll, and this continues to stack. So if you discard 2 hearts, 2 spades, 2 clubs, you can get up to +3 to a check. And finally, flashbacking. Now, very similar to Blades in the Dark. When you flashback, effectively you come up with something that your character did beforehand or studied beforehand or whatever, and this gives you advantage on a roll. You have to lay down a card versus mission control. Same thing as described. You lay down an 8. You have to hope I don't roll or flip over an 8 or better. And this is some kind of preparation or item or whatever that gives you advantage to whatever you're trying to do. Additionally, you can do the same thing and radio the Fracture Observatory to get guidance or answer questions, right? And obviously, Mission Control wants you to succeed as much as anybody, and so they're going to do their best. But because tech always messes up, it's inconsistent. You might get static or garbled answers. You might get demonic gurgling voices coming through the radio, or you might get Steve at Mission Control saying, "Yes, do this," which I think is kind of cool. Where it's a check to try to get the DMs to just answer guidance and give lore. This is the one that I think is my favorite, and that's sensor deployment. So built into your suit, you can lay down sensors to effectively, you'll lay down a sensor and I'll ask your character a question. You lay down a card, assuming you win. I'll ask you a question. So Travis, you lay down a sensor in whatever the situation would be. You're in the lost civilization ruins. You're in some kind of bizarre structure looking for something. You lay down a sensor and mission control will ask you a question like, what is it? What is this building? What did it used to be? Who used to live here? Whatever. You get to answer that question as the player, and whatever your answer is becomes canon in the universe.
That could be pretty lethal.
Everything's
And interesting.
Everything's just gonna be linked back to the Egyptians.
Well, and we start building a universe that way, which I think is a lot of fun.
Pokemon.
Yeah, it's all Pokemon.
Please don't ask
Always has
Eric.
been. And then, of course, you have system upgrade. If you discard 8 cards from your hand, you get to clear all your stress, reset all your skills to maximum, gain 1 stress capacity, and increase your skill max rating by 1. A skills max rating by 1. Now, Portal Influence. This is our stress. This is our crazy mechanic, right? So at 0 to 2 stress, nothing's different. You're just a little stressed out. You can continue to function as normal. At 3 to 4 stress, you get -1 to all skill checks. And you get to change a complication's detail once per deep breath. This can be small or large. So if the complication is that you find yourself stuck in an astral jellyfish swarm, you can change a detail like their poison isn't painful or disruptive, it's healing. Or maybe you want to change them where they're not pink, they're blue. Whatever the case may be. And that's once per deep breath. At 5 to 7 stress, and this is when you're going crazy, there's a -1 to skill checks. You choose a fundamental property, and you can change one of its aspects once per deep breath, like gravity, like magnetism, like heat.
Clark's just gonna amass stress as fast as possible just to fuck with gravity.
Right? It's kind of like a magic system, but in a weird way, right?
Yeah, I was like, this is how I become my OP Isekai character, is I just get super stressed and then start dicking with the world.
Exactly right.
Can I make the hole worse? Like, is that a thing?
Absolutely.
I can't make it worse, right?
You could, depending on the nature of it. So that would depend on the clues and how y'all interpret them as the party, right? If you determine that the portal is actually a mining breach from another dimension and they're mining the molten core of our planet, yeah, you could make that way worse by increasing their yield or flow or whatever. It bring down the apocalypse faster, which is an aspect of going crazy in this game. So to cover the last one, at 8+ stress, when you take a deep breath, you only increase your skills by 1 step. You no longer get a full reset. Skills can be reduced to D0. Auto succeed any understanding action you take, and you always collect all cards during skill checks. And so when you're at 8+ stress and going bonkers, there's not a lot you can do, but you always succeed at things involving the portal, the magic, the extra dimensional craziness, and you don't have to beat the cards to collect them, so you're gaining XP by just taking actions.
Okay, so yeah.
Now, beyond that, we're getting to character creation in just a second. Everybody's going to have 5 distinct features that's on every single exosuit/vehicle. This includes an inflatable, pressurized habitat that you can deploy. This allows you to get out of your vehicle or to remove your suit for whatever reason you might come up with in game. You get climbing and belaying gear, so your suit has inbuilt ropes and pittons and everything you need. You get rations and food and water and stuff, enough to cover 150 days. And you get a deployable set of flares. This is for like an emergency deterrent, right? A little thing opens up on your suit, sends flares out everywhere to scare away monsters or disrupt targeting for an eldritch computer that manifested or whatever. And this one's just for Clark, maybe Eric, I don't actually know. The Beep Bo Bop Recon Droid.
Beep the boops.
Which is a tiny little spherical recon droid that you can send out that has a camera on it and does sensor stuff. And yeah, everybody gets a little pet robot.
Chauncey
I'm
2.0.
gonna name him. Yes. No, I'll treat him better than Chauncey.
So yeah, beyond that, guys, the story is all about the otherworldly and using science and logic to attack things that are beyond such, to attack wonder and to attack magic and to attack eldritch understanding. There is not a lot of combat and death in the game. It does happen. It can be a primary feature, but it is not a definite one. And then there's pacing for one shots versus whole campaigns, and of course a win condition. So, Eric, you had your hand up. Does anybody have any questions before we get to character creation?
I was gonna say it is kind of neat how it's a lot of role playing, and the way the players can do something with the role playing in the sense like evolving the story. I gotta give them credit for that. That's a risky move, I think, when you make
it is
a tabletop game, like to have it where the player can have such a wild influence. I mean, I would probably recommend that you not cap it, but make it so they can't go too off-worldly with it. Because like I came up with some outrageous ideas in my head just sitting here, and it's like you don't want to bust the game. You want to just continue to make it more fun.
Well, and I think a large part of that falls on the player's responsibility.
No,
right?
it is. Yes. But if I don't know about like if you're playing with randoms, this is one of those games I would definitely have a talk about how outrageous to kind of go.
Yeah, playing with an unknown lobby would be interesting in this game. It's definitely one I would reserve for more. Like I'm playing with my friends,
I think as a DM it would be hard because you you have an idea of kind of how our brains think and how we might screw you over or try to. But like, if it was just a random person, I think as a DM, you would have, because usually it's the DM screwing over their players with lore and story, but like now we can do it to you, and that brings me joy.
Right. Well, and I think a large part of this falls again into the session zero, right? No matter what game you're playing, you should always have a session zero with your players, because given how extra dimensional and crazy this one gets, you could have it be very Armageddon, Michael Bay's Armageddon, right? It's Bruce Willis and everybody up there, drillers on an asteroid, because that makes sense, whatever. And it was kind of goofy. It was kind of fun. It was very actiony. It had heartfelt moments, and you could definitely play the game like that. You could also play the game like Jericho, the video game, where it's an elite military unit going into effectively the gates of hell, and you have to start worrying about really key things like child endangerment, body
Doom.
horror, yeah, you know, and you know,
Deep Rock Galactica.
yeah, I'll
Off
play
we
some Deep
go.
Rock Galactic all day, rock and stone, baby. So before we get into character creation, I've given you guys a little bit of a session zero before we started recording. Do y'all have an idea of what kind of flavor of game you would want to be, or any definite like, hey, please, no demonic babies floating through the air, no animal or child
That would be
endangerment?
epic.
Well, we know
I'd like
Eric's
to
stance.
request multiple demonic babies.
Lots of demonic babies. You got it.
Specifically
like
inside my helmet.
It's kind of like stepping stones when you're moving from place to place.
No, I'm down.
Well, see-
I'm down for whatever narratively.
Yeah.
Now, as far as flavor goes, y'all want something a little more kind of Wild Wasteland, a la Fallout, or do you want something darker? Do you want something grittier? Or are you looking for something more science-oriented?
We should go with the Fallout thing, only because Fallout, the TV show, is coming soon. And also, it's just, I think more people will enjoy something like something kind of like the Fallout sort of apocalyptic style thing.
All right,
And
little lighter-hearted.
Someone I'm hoping that is going to be watching this, they did a character about us. Dice. Oh man, I feel like a horrible human right now because I don't remember their
All of us
thing.
together as a character?
Well, just our podcast. We ended up being a Star Wars character.
Oh,
I'd love
fantastic.
to be a bipolar character.
So, yeah, I was like, are we a four-headed character? Because there's
I
four
feel
of
like
us.
Clark and I's personality could harmonize
That's
pretty
fair.
well.
That's
Dice.
fair.
Both of us are going to be very melee oriented.
Dice Clash Chronicles. So they actually did on Instagram. We got picked. They made a character about us.
Dope.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because they play Star Wars as a TTRPG. So they kind of threw out that they're looking at doing they're interested in seeing an apocalyptic style one. So I did kind of mention this, and it's shitty that we're not live, which I think is because my internet, after messing with everything. So we're having some crazy weather here because Canada, end of the world. So I'm guessing it's my internet because I got a warno about something with my audio in regards to YouTube. So I'm going to guess that's it. So I've got to work around for next time. So when we go to play the game, there won't be this issue.
We will be live when we are playing the game. That's good to know.
My only concern with the Fallout one is Fallout did just drop a tabletop.
Yeah, that's true. What I can do is
I'll
take the vibes.
The game.
Yeah, I'll take the vibes of Fallout, where you have that 1950s retro futurism, Mr. Handy the robot kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll play it just without the nuclear actual fallout. We'll just
That's fair.
That was the era
the Earth
we
is
were
split
in.
in half instead of nuclear missiles launched everywhere.
And so basically that, and realistically that just changes the vibe of mission control. How some of our stuff works is a little bit less intricate. Obviously our radio stations are going to have some freaking bangers on it. And Travis,
anything by Aqua.
I do have to point out that we have one other apocalyptic world that we could jump into, and also have to sadly announce this piece of nerdy news. Rooster Teeth has been officially disbanded. They are gone. They are the creators of Red vs. Blue. I think it was a Let's Play Minecraft channel, Rage Quit, which is by far one of the funniest YouTube series I think I've ever seen. As well as I believe they did Camp, which is another YouTube cartoon show that was super fun.
Yeah, they've been making content for 15, 20 years now, right?
Yeah, for a long time. They made Red vs. Blue, so.
Well, that was a major part of my early internet, so salute to RVB.
Yeah, to the point where everyone in the Covenant was assigned a particular person, and Ryan was instantly Sarge. Where it was like, just build another robot. I can't. I overdid that prank.
All right, guys. So to end the episode here, let's go ahead. I'm going to go one by one for each section, and we'll get our characters built. Does everybody have a character sheet with them, a portfolio with them, or at least a notepad where you can write down your stuff? All right, so I'm going to start with Clark, and I'm just going to work around my screen here. Clark, please document your scientist's name.
I am, let me move a cat, Mila Conway.
Mia Conway, okay. Travis, what is your scientist's
Your name was actually going to be I'm a Move-A-Cat. And I was like,
I'm a Move-A-Cat.
Dr.
Is that all one word?
I am Dr. Franklin S. Relax.
All right. And Eric?
Why does everybody got all these good names? I don't have a good name.
I'm Todd. Dr. Todd, the scientist.
He's Specialist John Smith.
I was literally going with Bob. I was trying to make this.
Can you be like Dr. Billy Bob, though? That would be lovely.
Now, bear in mind, Doctor is common,
Bobbert.
but you do not have to be PhD or MD in order to
We're going to be PhDs. This is a fantasy world.
There are survival specialists if you were looking to do something more military or oriented outside.
He's trying to say that for me, folks, because I didn't know what all the ology things were. But I'm going to be either a zoologist or a xenologist, depending on what gets me Pikachu. But on a for real note, I do like Bob McSwifty, because I don't know anything else at the moment because I've been so busy trying to do so many other things while we've been on here. I didn't come up with a really good name, appropriate name, I should say.
That's fine. We're going a little Fallout Wild Wasteland here. Some punny brevities, not a big deal. I am going to go with Robert.
Sog reference.
Yeah. So Bob Swifty, Robert Swifty.
McSwifty.
McSwifty. Excuse me.
McSwifty.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to redo my character.
No, not Robert. Not Robert.
Dick.
Taylor McSwifty.
Oh. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt. Clark, can you give me yours once again? I got stuck on I'm a Move-A-Cat, so.
It's Dr. Mila Conway. But now I want to change mine because now I'm thinking of those. I don't want to say it. It's the pumpkin hucking that's on Discovery Channel every year where they go out and it's in the middle of Alabama and these guys build these amazing trebuchets and they're
pumpkin
just
chunkin'.
Yeah, they're fantastic engineers and they build these cannons and the guy's just yep, built it in my backyard. And I'm I kind of want to be that now, but I won't because I already have this built out in my brain. But next time I have a character.
Got me a moose New Mexico also does a pumpkin
chunkin'.
Except there's
you can use pressurized tubes and stuff too. So it doesn't have to be just a trebuchet like the Alabama one.
Yeah.
Where it's trebuchet or catapult. You can use air cannons and
some of them are wild. And I'm just this takes some engineering and some mathing.
Yeah, New Mexico Tech always has an entrance with their grad students from the Energetic Materials Research and Testing Center, and most of the time their pumpkin explodes before it reaches its final destination.
Travis, what was your name one more time?
Dr. Franklin S. Relax. RELLACTS.
All right.
So,
we have everybody's name down. Clark, Mia Conway, what is your scientific specialty?
I'm going to go chemist so that I don't disappoint my parents and I eventually become a chemist at one point in my life.
Fantastic. All right. Dr. Relax. what is your scientific specialty?
In childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my PhD in what I actually have my bachelor's of science in, and that's anthropology.
Anthropology. Yeah, Team Anthro.
A man of the people.
That's actually what my degree is in as well.
Yeah, I got one in history and one in anthropology.
And looking forward to saying this for an entire session, Dr. McSwifty.
Name
Dr.
that
Taylor
show, people.
McSwifty.
I'm gonna roll.
You're gonna roll. Fantastic.
Microbiologist.
All right, a germ guy.
Nice.
So
I got-
you're something tiny.
Got a 9.
Hold on while I Google this.
All right, guys. So on
I'm
your
good with
character
germs.
sheets,
I deployed.
there you go. On your character sheets, everybody's going to start with 8 stress capacity, because nobody's leveled up yet. And you get to assign your skills now. I'm not going to be keeping track of this because it fluctuates so much, so this is going to fall onto y'all's kind of bookkeeping. For your skills, there are 6 skills. Obviously, there is make, dash, evade, break, think, and sway. Your character sheet should give you a brief description on what those kind of entail. You get to assign a D10 to one of them, a D8 to one of them, and a D6 to one of them. The rest will all be D4s. Do that now.
I thought it was a
do we
D12, a D10, and a D8.
And
D8,
the rest
or D10,
Okay,
D8,
yep, no,
D6.
I might have misheard you then. Okay, never mind. Do I put it in my max or my current column?
Your max.
Wonderful, thank you.
It says a D12, D10, a D8, and the rest become D6s.
No,
Yeah.
D10, D8, D6, the rest become D4s.
What? No. What? It
Page
says
16.
assign a D12, D10,
Yeah.
D8. All the others start at D6.
That's what my character sheet says as well.
Yeah, the sheets say that. I don't know
And
if the
that's
sheets
what
in
it
your
says
thing
on page 16.
You're looking at page 16?
I am.
Why does mine say different things to yours?
Oh, actually, you know what? No. The page 16 and your character sheets say 2 different things.
Oh, yeah, we found a
Interesting.
continuity error between
All right, it's all right. That's
printed
why
character
we're
sheet.
playtesting it.
So I think we should go with the character sheet, because that sounds better for me.
No, because that means you have one skill that you can't level up at all.
Tie goes to the me?
Tie goes to the player.
So
We'll lay down. Go ahead and lay down cards versus mission control. Oh wait.
Beat a king and a 7. I don't know what that.
Do you want to Rochambeau for it?
Here's the interesting
I
thing,
don't
guys.
care.
The expedition member personnel folio on page 72 that I'm using also says D10, D8, D6. All others start at D4.
Well,
So then it just looks like the character
liked it
sheet
better
is
when
off.
we were
Interesting.
D12s.
All
All
right,
right, so we're going to go
D10.
10, 8, 6, and then 4s.
Oh, okay. So the one y'all look at, the leadership dossier, is
Nope.
D12, D10, D8.
This is expedition member personal folio.
Yep. I'm looking at the physical character sheet as well.
Yeah, if you're on the Google Drive and you look at the character sheet on there, that's what they're talking
Curious.
about.
It's fine.
Let's go with the D10s for now. I will message Andrew about that and see what is the intended.
Yeah, he's pretty good to respond on Discord.
Indeed.
So D10, D8.
Yeah, D10, D8, D6, and then everything else D4s.
Do we want to coordinate what our skills are, or do we just want to?
You absolutely should.
Do we want to pick?
I'm going think.
Okay.
Make
Is my
break.
D10?
Oh,
Eric is
mine's
going
make
break. Oh, he's going make.
for my 10.
Okay.
If we're just calling out that one first. Yeah, it's my.
I was going to go sway.
Okay.
Okay, got a talker. I dig it.
All right,
And-
Clark, what's your 8?
I think dash
think was
feels
10.
good. Yeah, think was 10.
So
Dash
Dash
is
is
feeling
gonna go.
good.
You're
Yeah.
going to go your 8. All right, Eric, what do you got for your 8?
Break.
Speedy boy.
Break. I am not shocked. I am probably then going to go with. We're going to have some overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
there's only 6 skills, so
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Evade for my D8. And B, dodgy and / Heidi, which I feel like makes sense for an anthropologist. You have to do a lot of observation.
Well, I didn't even think about my class.
It is a very key feature on why you were chosen for the team.
All right, Clark, where are you putting your D6?
I'm gonna go sway because I feel like it fits the best because I have to chemists argue papers and argue theorems. So I'm gonna assume that I have to be convincing.
There you go.
Maybe a little manipulative at times. And intimidating.
I'm doing think.
Doing think for your D6?
Yeah.
I'm also going think for my D6, so we're going to have a little bit of overlap there in that regard.
I feel like think, outside of knowing how much combat we're going to run into, we're like hypothesizing, so it feels like think is good. We'll probably find out halfway through that think is like worthless.
I will tell you, think is always going to be useful, and is part of the end game, like portal use. Think is one half of that equation.
And we're sciencey.
So for our listeners, I think we should go through just one at a time and list what we chose for our skills. I'll go first. So I got make D4, break D4, dash D4, evade D8, think D6, and sway D10.
I have make D4, break D4, dash D8, evade D4, think D10, and sway D6.
Eric, what do you got?
Make D10, break D8, dash D4, evade D4, think D6, sway D4.
All right, fantastic. Now I'm going to offer. I'm going to go a little blade in the dark here. I'm going to offer a devil's bargain. So during creation, you can choose to reduce your maximum stress capacity to 6 instead of 8, and this lets you increase one of your skill ratings by a step. It does mean that your character is not capable of dealing with stress as well as others, and will eliminate you until you can level up past your breaking point at the highest levels of portal dimensional magic capacity. Does anybody wish to take this bargain?
Yes.
Nope.
I'm going to pass.
We got 2 passes.
I'm taking
it. All right.
Let me go down and reduce my stress zone. So max is now 6.
And you can increase any skill up 1 die size, getting you a second D6, a second D8, a second D10, or even a D12.
I'm going to up my think to a D8.
Fantastic.
We are scientists, after all.
Okay, next, starting items. These are items that your characters are specifically bringing with them in an attempt to be prepared for an upcoming situation. Please bear in mind that on each of your exosuits, you do have a 3D printer to try to create items that you might need on the fly. But what is something your character would bring with them without a doubt? If you are unsure, Mission Control will assign you an item that we've known to be useful in past expeditions.
The laser gun.
You can take a laser Gatling gun.
It seems so impractical.
It sure does.
They're like, your paper was trash, and then Clark was just spooling up the Gatling gun. What was it? What was wrong with my paper?
Eat science. just chanting Bill, 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 Bill,
Bill. Each blast of plasma. Bill, Bill, Bill.
Chemist set sounds the most sane.
Yeah.
The chemical set?
I feel like makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I'm going to go with the chemical set.
Okay, go ahead and add a chemical set to your storage as a D10 item.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go with what I feel is the best anthropological tool on this list.
Gatling gun.
Obviously.
No, it's got to be sample collector, right?
Pathfinder tool.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Pathfinder tool. I have the little drone to go collect samples.
This is true. You can get a second drone for the record.
I could, but I'm going with the Pathfinder kit.
Yeah, Pathfinder tools, fantastic. All right, Eric.
Dude, it's so hard. Man.
For you microbiologists?
Yeah, something about germs.
Honestly, the sample collector for you would be.
But
Not
see,
bad.
I got the little drone
Fantastic.
thingy though. We all got that little thingy that can collect samples.
Yeah, but your
So,
sample collector
so
might be better than
I was
his
actually
sample
thinking
collector.
like laser cutter, just because I want to be able to laser something.
A laser cutter, a shield generator, a
So
density sensor.
I will go laser cutter.
All right. Go ahead and mark that into your storage as a D10 item.
Is it operated by a hand switch? And does it glow blue?
I really wanted the laser Gatling gun also, but I feel like at least with the laser cutter, I can put it to some sort of sciencey use or take off something's arm. I feel like it's like a give or take.
It's a little Dead Space, but I'm here for it.
You can
Okay.
use a laser Gatling gun for science.
Oh, I shoot the
Just-
wall and like get some
I
rocks.
To see
I wonder
what's
how
inside of that
these-
creature.
Yeah, I wonder how fast these subterranean animals are.
Yeah.
Bill.
All right, Clark. Now for the fun stuff. Personnel questionnaires. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, question number 1. Rolling a dice. Oh, hey, look at that. Open up
Ryan's
with a natural
picking our
1.
questions. That's fantastic.
Oh, I like immediately started pre-answering them in order. All right.
Why did you end up on the Substratum team? Or how? How did you end up on the Substratum team?
I'm going to say this was a deal so that when and if we saved the world, I could get access to certain materials that were not publicly made available for my upcoming research. So I'm dealing with the government. This is how professors get tenure now.
All right, deal for restricted materials. I like that. Okay, second question. Man, I'm covering the gambit. Natural 1 to natural 20. Who did you leave behind when you joined the team?
My 3 cats and a hedgehog.
All right, 3 cats and a hedgehog. And finally,
It's Chris, but like,
but whatever.
This is a fantasy world, okay?
Do you have any well-known
Fancy
hobbies
Christopher?
or
Do I have
interests
any-
outside of science?
I'm gonna say I play the electric guitar a lot and very well because as a science major, I was always trying to make friends because we're typically not the most social people. So I was like, I saw it in a movie once and I was like, this would be really cool. And now it's like half my personality.
All right. I expect a lot of song quotes from you.
What in the actual fuck?
All right.
That's some
We'll move
in-depth
on.
stuff here.
I don't know. I just looked at the guitar in my room and I was like, yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Sensing a touch of realism, did you learn the guitar to make friends?
No, I learned the guitar and still had no friends.
All right. So, Dr. Franklin S. Relax.
Yes.
Question number 1. Hey, same one. How did you end up on the Substratum team?
My specialty in anthropology was early civilization construction. So I'm familiar with ancient civilizations and how they built and constructed things and the methodologies that they used.
Fantastic. Okay, question number 2. How do you feel about exploring an unknown world?
I'm super into it. Like this is every anthropologist's dream. I get to be the first. So I'm the first anthropologist to potentially write about a xenospecies.
Okay, fantastic. And lastly, what event led you to choose your specialty?
Ooh. I mean, we're going to do a little extra world building in here. I found a potential construction methodology link between two completely separate civilizations on Earth.
Ah, okay. All right, and lastly, Dr. Bob McSwifty. Since I rolled natural ones on everybody, I'm just going to auto it for you. How did you end up on the Substratum team?
Some sort of lab experiment got horribly wrong. I don't know, microbiology. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Something I did horribly wrong. Something got released. People, didn't make it, and I'm fleeing the law.
I was like, is this like your parole thing or something?
Yeah.
I actually have an idea. I think it would be super fun. If you don't mind me interjecting a little bit on your character.
Why? What are you thinking here?
I would say you ended up on the team by default because during the breaking of the Earth, there was a large conference going on that you weren't invited to. So you're one of the last microbiologists available.
I like mine better.
Hold up.
So you're just here by default.
We can blend the two together, right?
I like mine better.
Bob McSwifty has a terrible lab accident. Fucking polio infects downtown Indianapolis. Something bad. He's in prison.
It's got to be New York. Can it be New York?
We'll go with New York.
Yeah, thank you.
He's in prison because of this. Pending trial. Nearly every other microbiologist attends the major conference in Manila, falls into the crack, and he's one of the very few microbiologists left. And they're just like, well,
how would you like to be out on parole?
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Who
that.
wants to join the A-team?
Okay, so we have
after slaughtering half of New York.
Two people super excited to be here. One person here because it's better than prison food. And second question, 15. Have you ever had to compromise your ethics?
I feel like we've already answered this question.
No.
Just a terrible dude.
Yeah.
Just a terrible person.
Just doing my job. You can't cure it until you make it. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. And lastly, how did you handle a moral dilemma at your work?
These are so perfect.
I don't know. I ran.
I attempted to cover up my error.
Yeah, I tried to blame it on the guy beside me.
Okay, so that is your individual characters. Now we got to build the world a little bit here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of you 3 questions about the world. And you can answer however you want to, and we will play in a world where that is canon. Clark, you're going to go first. Are you ready?
No.
Okay. How far down the best and brightest list is our current team?
Is this an average? Is it a weighted average?
It's a weighted average.
What the hell's a weighted average?
Bell curve.
Let's assume
that just lowers our ranking.
Are you? We'll just go straight up, right? Is this team, these 3 individuals, the best, the brightest, the top tier of the planet, or are you at like number 154?
So the way I'm going to preface this is how I truly think this team will be. We're like top 10 on intelligence, but nobody else has like left the lab and lived life. Like, so we are top 10 on like the research platform, but we've gone out, we have some street smarts. It's not all books and stuff like that. So if you bring that in, I think we're probably like top 5 to make it kind of thing.
Interesting. So pretty high up there. Okay.
Yeah.
Second
We're blending
question.
book smarts and street smarts. What are you guys on?
What kind of ethical dilemmas might the scientists face on this expedition?
Eric?
That's a good answer. I feel like that justifies.
We're just going to ask Eric what he would do and then not do that.
Yeah. The real answer is we will run into a dilemma of kind of the rail cart. Is it better to save one or many, and how do we confirm that we're saving the many when we're down in the hole? Or if we want to even save the many, it could be, we save the other 30 bright people, but let some other, like an entire continent go under. Like, how do you do
Okay.
that?
Fantastic.
California.
And lastly,
There's a lot of smart people in California.
what was the world like before the apocalypse?
In terms of political climate, in terms of...
I would say more general than that. Like, is it very factionalized, isolated, xenophobic, or was it more erudite, where the world was more
I
academically
don't even know what
inclined?
half these words are.
I'm going to say we were, like, on the brink of global utopia that seemed too good to be true.
Okay.
And that maybe this is a piece of the portal is some kind of... My theory is going to be that the portal was something underneath that just made this visual utopia, but really there was something like a sub that was going
a rotten
on.
core.
Yeah.
Okay. So utopia with a proposed conspiracy of a rotten core.
Yeah.
All right. Travis.
Ready.
Are there governments still in power?
So yeah, we were on the verge of a very like utopian society before the collapse. So there is still an overarching world government, so to speak. But as things get progressively worse or unstable, obviously there's going to be fractured resistance groups. So there's going to be like doomsday groups, former countries seeking new independence, and blaming all things on anything that happened in the modern government, attempting to reform. So just a wildly chaotic political scene.
Next question. Oh, this one's big for our game. How do the scientists sustain themselves on this trip?
Yeah, canned tuna. No,
Because you're talking about 150 days to get to the core, so 300 days minimum. You have to eat, drink, shit, and handle it.
we're gonna go matter reconfiguration device inside the suit.
Big recycle. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Somebody's been watching Dune.
I would have just said
recyclable.
chickens.
So we're bringing this whole thing of chickens with us.
Yeah, you're just gonna bring 1,000 chickens with you on the trip.
Like a dozen. You can kill one, eat it over 3 days. You'll be all right.
And that gets you 36 days out of 300.
We'd figure it out.
Well, they're gonna lay eggs, Ryan.
Yeah, like there's things we could do.
He's just
We
carrying
could
a bunch
figure
of
it
chickens
out.
waiting for him to pop an egg out.
It's got a wagon, just this hermetically
Yeah,
sealed like
pulling
environment
incubators.
bubble.
We could have figured it out.
All right. Matter
Clark, manipulate gravity. We need to turn the eggs.
All right, last question
Shoot
for Travis.
Gatling gun.
Hey, you didn't take the cat. Should have took
So
the gun.
this one is part of the setup that you don't know yet because we haven't begun. But the original data analysts from the fracture trying to determine what's going on there, many of them that tried to study the data and put it into a comprehensive kind of vibe ended up in a comatose state. Why is that?
Ancient tongue.
These are big questions. It's going to flavor the entire game.
I'm going to say like some type of neurological like disruption. Something almost electrical, just shorted out everything in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Just from looking at the data.
100100110.
Futurama again.
Yeah.
01000010100001.
All right. And now for the most dangerous part.
Eric.
Yay!
Question number 1. Okay, this one's big for the world building. How are the
Yes.
observatory personnel handling the situation?
In total panic.
Total panic.
Shit. They just
You
made
went
everything way harder on us.
You went from total utopia to like out of nowhere. Now there isn't total utopia. I feel like
I gotta
everyone
say
would
though,
panic.
they had the plan though. There was a pretty solid plan.
All right, total panic. Question 2.
Rather than what the other thing I was going to say instead is that everyone's killing each other now. Which is,
Now, this one's global. Where did the fracture open?
New York.
So is it vertical on New York? Is it horizontal on New York? Is it not circling the whole world and it's just a big break?
Yeah, I was thinking more it was a hemisphere crack.
So I would think it would start and then head like center. So it would start like the edge is like in the center of New York and it would just work its way.
Work its way where?
Nah, let's go.
Towards the pole or towards the equator?
Equator.
All right.
That sounds good.
Sure. Does it bisect the planet and we're just held together by gravity right now? Or is it a rent?
Oh. Let's go with the first one.
Bisecting
Held
the
together
planet.
by gravity.
All right, so we have 2 pieces of a planet right now. So that's really good. That matches a lot of the stuff because much of the world's panic came from the fact the oceans are draining into a giant hole. Many cities and people were swallowed up by this tear in the planet. It threw off the magnetism, like everything. Everything's bad.
I'm picturing water just kind of like on both hemispheres, just like circling around because like because eventually it's going to get to a point in the center, right, where it shoots down the other way with momentum and then back up. So the water is just like in and out of the fissure where it's over an ocean, like all drastic.
The way I picture it is it flows in, but as you get down, it gets so bloody hot that it just vaporizes and goes up. So you end up with this kind of
The water cycle.
Swirling, water cycle.
This huge atmosphere cycle
Mhm.
all the way around. You know.
Oh, it's gonna
where
be
now
cloudy
the Earth
as
has
shit
got like
all the time.
it's got like a cloudy ring around it.
Yeah, lots
Okay.
of steam.
And last question for Eric.
There's gonna be a perfect zone as we descend where it's
Where
just
we'll be cooked.
Oh shit.
Oh God!
Eric,
Don't ask it.
what-
Don't ask it to him.
What new social norms can be found at the Fracture Observatory?
Talking shit about people who can't play first-person shooters.
I don't know anything for this one. This one's too hard.
You wanna give it to your teammates?
What do you got, Travis?
Given the fact that the observatory is full of nothing but panicked scientists,
Or brain dead because of the whole thing you were talking about earlier.
well, that was just the first ones that we're analyzing.
That's what I mean. Or
Yeah.
brain dead, one or the other.
The new social norm is everybody is. So this is going to require a little bit of back information. Most scientists try to dumb down their talk when they're speaking to other people because they don't know the level of expertise they have in any given subject, right? So they have to like find a happy medium where they sound technical, but they can still get their point across. Everyone has abandoned that and is just all technical speak.
Okay. So no dumbing
No
down. I like
sugarcoat?
that. No
Yeah, there's no
sugarcoating.
sugarcoating. It's just
So now
pure.
everybody's just always scared because they don't understand the information that is coming out anymore.
Probably the public, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so yeah, they no longer understand.
Which honestly, I realized that I just created what would be my wife's absolute nightmare because she loves science communication, which is bringing science and understanding to the masses. I just reversed all of that.
They
Okay,
can
and
Google the answers.
that's all I need to be able to get
internet's
this
up?
game rolling. No, there is very little communication. You're talking radio is the only thing still working. There is some satellite function, but not a lot. But yeah, that is all I need in order to get the game going. So next episode, guys, we will follow Crossing the Nerdverse and their science characters as they descend into the fracture in an attempt to understand why the world is broken.
I'm already technically level 2.
And I'm going to study what microbiology means.
All right, Travis, take us out of here.
Oh,
You know what? Wait, before we get out of here, actually, I stepped in front of myself. I want to say a special thank you to everybody that's listening in. For all of you that hit that like button, share the video, and leave us comments. That's something we really appreciate. Lets us keep the lights on around here. Thank you very much, and I hope you're excited for the next episode.
Next episode, we're going to make sure Eric doesn't constantly click things into the microphone, though.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I'll fix it anyways when we're up on post. But on a for real note, so our character, by the way, was a Mon Calamari City Watch / mercenary.
Nice.
Very well done for Star Wars 5e. So appreciate that.
I'm about it.
Actually, Mon Calamari is one of my favorite species in Star Wars, Xeno species in Star Wars. They're dope.
Yeah, and so go to our website, check our shit out, click some likes on the TikTok. It's pretty good.
How elegant.
Very elegant.
And why did no one like the promotion video? I thought it was pretty good. Pretty sad about that. If I could get some comments, that was a good video. Other than that, I don't really got much. Yeah, that's it.
And with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. We will begin our actual quest next week as we descend into the depths of the planet's core.
Questing sword.
Yeah, make sure you follow along. We're Crossing the Nerdverse, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.
Use.
Keep an eye out for the raincoats.